Why would a story of heroism, faith, and miraculous victories be hidden from one of the most widely read books in history, the Bible? The story of honest Maccabees, a tale of rebellion against oppression, was excluded from many biblical canons and yet remains one of the most inspiring accounts of perseverance and faith. Was it the content, the cultural implications, or was there something deeper at play? In this video, we'll uncover the reasons behind the exclusion of honest Maccabees and explore its enduring legacy. Along the way, we'll dive into stories of incredible courage, divine intervention, and a rebellion that changed the course of history. Before we begin, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below, because your insights make these conversations richer. The story of honest Maccabees begins in an era of monumental change, a time when Alexander the Great's conquests reshaped the ancient world. By uniting vast territories under Greek influence, Alexander introduced Hellenistic culture to regions as far-reaching as Egypt, India, and Judea. His ambition wasn't just about expanding borders, it was about spreading a new way of life. Greek language, art, philosophy, and religion were meant to unify the diverse peoples of his empire. But for many, including the Jews of Judea, this cultural transformation posed a direct threat to their identity and traditions. To understand the significance of this period, we must grasp the sheer scale of Alexander's legacy. His empire stretched across 3 continents, connecting diverse cultures through a shared Greek influence. This influence, known as Hellenization, brought advancements in art, philosophy, and governance. But it also imposed a foreign identity on many ancient traditions, including Judaism. For the Jewish people, Hellenization was a double-edged sword. While some embraced Greek customs, others saw it as a theological and cultural compromise, a dilution of the covenantal relationship with God that had sustained them through centuries. The tension between tradition and assimilation only grew after Alexander's death. His empire fragmented, dividing Judea between rival successors. At first, Judea fell under the Ptolemies of Egypt, whose rule, though not without challenges, was relatively lenient. However, this period of relative peace ended when Judea came under the control of the Seleucid Empire and its ambitious king, Antiochus IV Epiphanes. Antiochus wasn't just a ruler, he was a man driven by a vision of absolute unity within his empire. He sought to achieve this by erasing cultural and religious differences, imposing Greek customs and beliefs on all his subjects. For the Jewish people, this meant the suppression of their faith. Antiochus's decrees banned Sabbath observance, outlawed circumcision, and mandated participation in pagan rituals. The Holy Temple in Jerusalem, the heart of Jewish worship, was desecrated and turned into a shrine for Zeus. These actions weren't just political, they were deeply personal. Imagine the anguish of seeing your sacred traditions outlawed, your community divided, and your places of worship defiled. Families were forced to choose between survival and faith, and many paid a heavy price for their resistance. Stories of martyrdom began to spread. Fathers and mothers who refused to abandon their faith, even when threatened with death, and elders who chose to die rather than violate God's law. But beneath this oppression, a spark was igniting. In villages and towns across Judea, a quiet defiance began to take shape. There were whispers of resistance, stories of small acts of rebellion against Antiochus's decrees. Among those whispers, a name began to surface: Mattathias. A priest from the town of Modian, Mattathias's courage would soon ignite a full-scale revolt, one that would challenge the might of the Seleucid Empire. Yet the odds were daunting. The Seleucids were a powerful military force, equipped with vast resources and skilled soldiers. How could a small group of untrained rebels hope to stand against such a formidable opponent? The answer lay not in their numbers or weapons, but in their unwavering faith. The Jewish people had endured exile, conquest, and countless trials before. Their history was one of resilience and divine deliverance, a history that inspired them to believe that, with God on their side, even the mightiest empire could be overcome. This was the beginning of the Maccabean revolt, a story of courage, faith, and the unyielding determination to preserve a way of life. It's a story that challenges us to consider our own convictions. What are we willing to stand for? What sacrifices are we prepared to make to protect what we hold most dear? In the small town of Modi'in, about 17 miles northwest of Jerusalem, a priest named Mattathias became the face of resistance. For years, he had watched his people suffer under the oppressive rule of Antiochus IV Epiphanes. Families torn apart, sacred traditions desecrated, and the faith of his ancestors threatened with extinction. Mattathias, a devout man deeply rooted in the laws of Moses, could not stand by and watch his people's covenant with God be erased. The tipping point came when a royal officer arrived in Modi'in, bearing an order from the king. All residents were to sacrifice to the Greek gods. This act of submission would symbolize their loyalty to Antiochus and their rejection of their own faith. The officer, confident in his authority, called upon Mattathias, a respected elder in the community, to set an example by performing the sacrifice. But Mattathias refused. Even if all the nations under the king's rule obey him and abandon their ancestral laws, I and my sons will walk in the covenant of our fathers, he declared. His words echoed across the square, igniting a spark of defiance in the hearts of those gathered. What happened next was an act of boldness that would change the course of history. As another Jewish man stepped forward to comply with the royal decree, Mattathias, overcome with righteous anger, struck him down. He then turned his fury on the royal officer, killing him as well. This act of defiance was not just a rejection of Antiochus's orders. It was a call to arms. Mattathias and his sons fled to the hills, leaving behind their home and possessions. They were soon joined by others who shared their determination to resist. These men and women, though few in number, were united by their faith and their refusal to bow to tyranny. Together, they formed the nucleus of what would become the Maccabean revolt. Their strategy was unconventional. They knew they couldn't face the Seleucid forces in open battle, so they turned to guerrilla warfare, small strategic strikes against enemy outposts and collaborators. These tactics allowed them to outmaneuver their better-equipped opponents and inspire hope among the oppressed. The actions of Mattathias were more than just a political rebellion. They were a profound statement of faith. In his defiance, he demonstrated that loyalty to God's commandments was worth any sacrifice, even life itself. His courage set a precedent, inspiring generations to stand firm in their beliefs, no matter the cost. Mattathias's legacy, however, extended beyond his own lifetime. His bold act of defiance set the stage for his son Judas Maccabeus to rise as one of history's most brilliant military leaders. When Mattathias passed away, leadership of the rebellion fell to his third son, Judas, later known as Judas Maccabeus, or the Hammer. The name wasn't just a title. It was a declaration of his resolve and his impact on the battlefield. Judas was a man of extraordinary courage, unwavering faith, and strategic brilliance. These qualities would not only define his leadership, but also alter the course of Jewish history. Judas inherited a ragtag group of fighters, men and women who were farmers, shepherds, and artisans, not soldiers. They were poorly equipped, outnumbered, and lacked formal military training. But what they had was a shared faith, an unyielding conviction that their cause was just, and a leader who believed that their greatest strength came not from their weapons but from their reliance on God. One of Judas's earliest and most significant victories was the Battle of Emmaus. The Seleucid general Gorgias, confident in his overwhelming numbers and superior resources, set out with a large force to crush the rebellion. Judas, however, anticipated Gorgias's moves. Instead of engaging the Seleucid army head-on, he orchestrated a daring night raid on their camp, while their main force was away searching for him. By the time the Seleucids returned, they found their camp in flames, their supplies destroyed, and their morale shattered. This brilliant maneuver not only secured a decisive victory, but also sent a powerful message. The Maccabees were not to be underestimated. The victory at Emmaus ignited a wave of hope among the Jewish people. Communities that had been living in fear began to see the possibility of freedom. They understood that their survival depended on maintaining momentum, and so they prepared for the next challenge. That challenge came in the form of the Battle of Beth-sur, where Judas faced an even larger Seleucid force led by the governor Lysias. Outnumbered and outmatched, the Maccabees relied on their knowledge of the terrain and their ability to strike with precision. The battle was fierce, with the Seleucid forces pushing hard to crush the rebellion once and for all. But the Maccabees' determination and unity turned the tide. Against all odds, they achieved another stunning victory, solidifying Judas's reputation as a military genius. These victories were more than just tactical achievements. They were deeply symbolic. For the Jewish people, each battle represented not only a step toward freedom, but also a reaffirmation of their identity and faith. Judas reminded his followers that their strength came from God and that every victory was a testament to his providence. This belief sustained them through moments of exhaustion and despair, giving them the courage to continue their fight. The struggles of the Maccabees weren't confined to the battlefield. They faced immense challenges in their daily lives, scrounging for food, tending to the wounded, and enduring the harsh conditions of life in the wilderness. Yet, through it all, they held on to their faith. Songs of praise and prayers echoed through their camps, a reminder that their fight was not just for survival but for something greater, the preservation of their covenant with God. As news of their victories spread, the Maccabees became a symbol of resistance and resilience. Communities that had been divided began to unite under their banner, driven by the hope that freedom was within reach. The rebellion wasn't just about overthrowing the Seleucid rulers. It was about restoring the soul of a people who had been pushed to the brink of despair. Judas's leadership extended beyond strategy and tactic. He was a shepherd to his people, providing them with a vision of what they were fighting for. A future where they could live in accordance with their faith without fear of persecution. His ability to inspire and unify was as vital to the rebellion's success as his military brilliance. Even in their victories, the Maccabees faced relentless pressure. The Seleucid Empire was determined to quash the rebellion, and with each battle, the stakes grew higher. Yet, through every trial, Judas and his followers remained steadfast. They believed that their cause was not only just, but divinely ordained, a belief that gave them the strength to endure and prevail. The victories at Emmaus, Beth-zur, and other battles set the stage for the most iconic moment in the Maccabees' journey, the rededication of the temple in Jerusalem. This moment was not just a military triumph, but a spiritual and cultural restoration. It marked the culmination of their struggle and the beginning of a legacy that would inspire generations. The victories of the Maccabees culminated in a moment that would be remembered for generations: the rededication of the temple in Jerusalem. For years, the temple had been defiled by the Seleucid rulers, who erected an altar to Zeus and desecrated the sacred space with pagan ritual. For the Jewish people, the temple wasn't just a building, it was the heart of their faith, the place where heaven and earth met. Restoring it was not only a military objective, but also a deeply spiritual mission. After driving the Seleucid forces out of Jerusalem, Judas Maccabeus and his followers set about purifying the temple. They removed the pagan altars, cleansed the sanctuary, and prepared it for worship once again. According to tradition, the moment of rededication was marked by the rekindling of the menorah, the seven-branched lampstand that symbolized God's eternal presence. But there was a problem. They had only enough consecrated oil to keep the menorah burning for one day. What happened next became one of the most celebrated miracles in Jewish history. Despite the scarcity of oil, the menorah burned for 8 days, long enough for new oil to be prepared and sanctified. This event was seen as a clear sign of God's favor, a reminder that He was with His people even in their darkest hour. This miracle, combined with the Maccabees' incredible victories, gave rise to the festival of Hanukkah, also known as the Festival of Light. But Hanukkah is more than just a celebration of a military triumph or a miraculous event. It's a testament to the resilience of faith and the power of hope. It reminds us that even when the odds seem insurmountable, the light of faith can guide us through. The rededication of the temple was a moment of profound joy and unity. For the first time in years, the Jewish people could worship freely, offering sacrifices and prayers in accordance with their traditions. The sound of music and the sight of the menorah's light filled the temple courts, a stark contrast to the darkness and oppression they had endured. Yet, the story of Hanukkah isn't just about the past. Its themes resonate powerfully in the present. It's a reminder that even in times of struggle, faith can sustain us, and hope can inspire us to persevere. The light of the menorah symbolizes the endurance of the human spirit and the belief that with God's help, even the smallest light can dispel the greatest darkness. Judas Maccabeus and his followers achieved more than a military victory. They reclaimed their identity and reaffirmed their covenant with God. The rededication of the temple was a victory of the soul, a declaration that faith and tradition would not be extinguished. It's a story that continues to inspire people of all faiths to stand firm in their beliefs and to find strength in their shared history. As we reflect on the significance of Hanukkah, we are reminded that the Maccabees' journey didn't end with the rededication. Their struggle for freedom and faith continued, shaping the destiny of their people and leaving a legacy that endures to this day. The rededication of the temple was a moment of triumph, but the Maccabees knew their struggle was far from over. The Seleucid Empire, though weakened, was relentless in its attempts to crush the rebellion and reclaim control over Judea. For Judas Maccabeus and his followers, the battle was not just to defend their faith, but to secure a future where their people could live free from oppression. Judas continued to lead the Maccabees with courage and ingenuity, securing key victories that strengthened their position. However, the Seleucids began to adapt to his guerrilla tactics, sending larger and better prepared forces to counter the rebellion. Despite their resilience, the Maccabees faced mounting losses, and Judas found himself increasingly isolated. Many of their allies, fearing reprisal from the Seleucid Empire, withdrew their. The breaking point came in a final, desperate battle. Judas, outnumbered and with few resources, refused to abandon the fight. He faced the Seleucid forces head-on, knowing the odds were stacked against him. In the end, Judas fell in battle, a martyr for the cause he had so valiantly led. His death was a devastating blow to the rebellion, but it was far from the end of the Maccabees' story. Leadership passed to Judas's brothers, Jonathan and Simon, who carried forward his vision. Despite the loss of their charismatic leader, the Maccabees rallied, driven by the memory of Judas's sacrifices and the unyielding belief that their cause was just. Under Jonathan and Simon's leadership, the Maccabees transitioned from a resistance movement into a governing force. One of the most significant achievements of this period was the establishment of the Hasmonean dynasty under Simon's rule. For the first time in centuries, Judea enjoyed a measure of autonomy, governed by leaders who upheld Jewish traditions and law. This period of self-rule was a testament to the Maccabees' perseverance and the profound impact of their rebellion. The legacy of the Maccabees extended far beyond the political realm. Their story became a symbol of faith, courage, and the power of resistance against tyranny. It inspired not only their contemporaries, but also generations of people who saw in their struggle a reflection of their own battles for freedom and identity. The Maccabees' unwavering faith in God and their commitment to preserving their heritage resonate deeply with believers today. Their story reminds us that even in the face of overwhelming odds, hope and determination can lead to triumph. It challenges us to consider what we are willing to stand for and to find strength in the knowledge that we do not stand alone. As we reflect on the Maccabees' journey, we are reminded that their fight was not just for a piece of land or political power. It was a fight for the soul of a people. Their courage ensured that the traditions and faith of their ancestors were passed down, a legacy that continues to inspire and guide us today. The story of the Maccabees is more than a historical account. It's a timeless testament to the enduring power of faith in the human spirit. Their example calls us to stand firm in our convictions, to persevere through trials, and to remember that even the smallest acts of courage can leave a lasting. A story of resilience, faith, and the unyielding human spirit. It reminds us that even in the darkest times, when the odds seem insurmountable, hope can endure, and faith can inspire acts of extraordinary courage. Judas Maccabeus and his followers were not just warriors, they were torchbearers of a tradition, protectors of a covenant that defined their identity and purpose. At its core, the Maccabean rebellion was about more than military victories. It was a fight to preserve faith and freedom, a declaration that some values are worth any sacrifice. Their story challenges us to ask ourselves, what are we willing to stand for? How far would we go to protect what we hold most? The lessons of honest Maccabees resonate far beyond its historical context. In a world where faith, identity, and freedom are often tested, the Maccabees' example serves as a reminder that we too can find strength in our conviction. Whether facing external pressures or internal doubts, their story calls us to live boldly and faithfully, trusting that even the smallest acts of courage can spark change. Hanukkah, the festival that commemorates the Maccabees' journey, stands as a beacon of hope. The light of the menorah, burning against all odds, symbolizes the enduring power of faith. It reminds us that even in moments of scarcity and uncertainty, miracles are possible when we remain steadfast. As we conclude, let us reflect on the enduring legacy of the Maccabees. Their story is a testament to the power of faith in community, the importance of standing firm in the face of adversity, and the profound impact of those who dare to fight for what is right. Their courage ensured that the traditions and faith of their ancestors were preserved, inspiring generations to hold fast to their belief. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What lessons do you take from the story of the Maccabees? How does their courage resonate with your own experiences? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey through history, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more stories of faith, courage, and inspiration. Until next time, let the light of the Maccabees remind us to keep our faith burning.